We have new details now about the building collapse in Antigo that happened about 3 weeks ago. While the demolition happened quickly, there are a lot of checks and protocols that have to be followed to raise it safely.
With new records from the DNR, 7 Investigates' Emily Davies explains how crews work to protect people against possible cancer-causing exposures.
There are a lot of buildings in this downtown that are 100 years old or older, so certainly keeping buildings like this dentist's office next door secure while they were taking down the other building was a priority. Another one, making sure that any asbestos or other hazardous material was abated. It's not every day a building starts to spontaneously collapse.
They dropped what they were doing and rescheduled to fit us in and to help us out.
Antigo is grateful for North Star Environmental Testing's experience with these old buildings.
They presumed there would be some asbestos present, and that's our role, is to help them guide them through that.
Owner David Barrett says they abate asbestos all of the time, but usually the testing is done in safer conditions.
It's tricky because it's hard to access it to do our testing that we're required to do. So the city engineers had to look at it first and determine where could we go.
They were allowed on the upper floors and didn't find any asbestos.
We knew that there was some asbestos in the basement though, and so that got handled differently.
While they couldn't get down there to test it, prior experience told them there would be what's called friable asbestos.
Friable asbestos is defined as a material that you can turn to dust with hand pressure.
The best way to keep that from getting in the air for people to breathe, keep it from being dry.
As they pulled that structure apart, we were looking for other materials that might be suspect asbestos. And if we would have found it, we would have stopped them, sampled it, waited for results, and then moved on accordingly.
While the city tried to contact the owner during this time, the structural engineer it hired used the sheriff's office drone to look at the roof and other elements and determined it needed to be raised. He told me his report would be complete this week.
It was a really expensive project for the city.
That bill is still being calculated. The city will pay for that initially, then send an invoice to the owner. We reached out to the owner, but none of the numbers we could find worked. We made a records request for the building inspections for this space and other similar records. The city tells us they are actively working on that records request, and we will be sharing what we find in that with you once we have them. For now, in Antigo, Emily Davies, News Channel 7.